Happy Monday. So excited to be here with all of you. Today, we are talking about a topic that has completely transformed how I approach LinkedIn. So, it's more about why showing up every day is the most important thing. It's more important than building this personality driven brand, which I think is what we see celebrated a lot. So for years, I bought into the online entrepreneur hype, all the mega influencers out there selling us online business owners like the latest and greatest course, program, system, framework, fill in the blank. And I believed that if I had a strong enough personality, a compelling enough story, and a unique enough brand, that would be enough. And sure, it got me some traction. I did some events with some of these influencers. I got on their radar and yeah, but it didn't have that business sustainability factor. It also didn't give me that sense of gratification. It's just not the traction that I'm looking for and the type of business that I want to build. And traction isn't the same thing as sustainable growth or getting consistent opportunities. And I think a lot of people confuse the two. So that's what we're diving into today. So for those of you who are like, yeah, I hear all the online hype. I see these like mega influencers. They're talking and bragging about all these numbers. And if I just buy their fill in the blank, I'm going to get it too. Okay, you're in the right place because that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about referrals. We're talking about building something that is more sustainable over the long term. So before we get into that, how was your weekend? Okay, I didn't watch the Super Bowl. I spent my time watching pro surfing at Pipeline on the North Shore of Oahu. I wasn't actually physically there. I was virtually and in spirit there. It's so much of it felt like home to me because for those of you who've been following me for a while, I lived there for almost 4 years. And yes, I would love to go back at some point. So the pro surfing season kicked off in late January, and I never miss watching a heat. So it's like the only sport I watch. Love it. And my favorite surfer, if you're curious, is John Florence. Just Google him. You'll see him pop up. Huge fan of his style, especially at Pipeline. I think he should have gotten a 10 on his ride, but okay. Besides the point. Plus, I was able to get in some fun family time with the kiddos. That's always really, really nice. So good weekend overall. And now it is time for Mondays with Mindi. This is the weekly show where we talk all things LinkedIn, pipeline, promo, and profiles. So these are what I call the 3 Ps of LinkedIn. Today, we're a little more focused on the pipeline side of things, but obviously all three of these work together. If you're looking to build a presence that gets real results and not just likes, you're in the right place today. That's what we're talking about. Have questions about LinkedIn, okay? Yes, no, maybe you're shy, maybe you don't want to ask. Drop them in the chat, whether you're here live, whether you're watching the replay. I'll answer them either after the show or feature them in a future episode. You can also just email me, Mindi@MindiRamsey.com, if that's easier for you. Sometimes I'm a little slower to respond on the comments if you're commenting on YouTube or Facebook. Usually I'm pretty quick on LinkedIn. All right, so let's talk about something a little counterintuitive. Personality branding. All right. So personality branding, when I'm talking about that, it is a brand that is not quite a personal brand. It's more of this is my personality and they're building a brand around it. And I've seen a lot of online influencers, especially like the really popular ones that started like 10 plus years ago and kind of grew in popularity and they still kind of build their brand around their personality. That's what I'm talking about. And it isn't enough to build a sustainable LinkedIn presence. So if you are trying to say, I see these mega influencers, they've built their brands, I want to do that and I want to do it on LinkedIn, you're going to be sorely disappointed because it's not how it works on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is not so much about personalities. There are a few, but for the most part, those of us who are actually building businesses and working with clients and using LinkedIn effectively, a lot of times we're not the most gregarious or the most out there personalities. So for a long time, I'm a LinkedIn person. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to take this personality thing and I'm just going to do it. And I thought LinkedIn was like about standing out with like a strong personal brand. Like that was the main thing, right? Especially when I'm buying into the hype of all these like online mega entrepreneurs. So a little charisma, maybe a little bit of storytelling, maybe a little hope that the right people would notice me. And that sort of worked. I mean, it worked to an extent. But the problem was personality doesn't scale. There's only so much of me to go around. I was starting to get burned out. I didn't like my business. I didn't want to be here. I didn't want to keep showing up. So when you rely on personality driven branding, when it's like, hi, I'm here, You become the product. All right. And that means that you constantly have to show up in a really entertaining way to keep people engaged. It's also a lot more difficult to build real trust because your personality alone doesn't signal credibility. And if you are investing so much time into having that personality, how much are you actually doing for your clients behind the scenes? If you have clients, how much effort are you putting into your programs? If you don't have a giant team, if it's just you, there's only so much of you to go around. And the second you stop posting, boom, your momentum dies. And it's really sad because you worked so hard and trying to keep that up over long periods of time without a team. If you just want to kind of build a sustainable business for yourself, be a consultant, work as like a fractional, marketer, social media. Like for me, I'm like a fractional social media marketing strategist and manager. It just doesn't work because I need to be doing that. I need to be helping my clients. When I'm launching programs, I need to be working on my programs and making sure the people going through those programs are having success. And that's going to take away from my personality on LinkedIn. So the shift that really changed everything for me was kind of really hitting that, the burnout. It's so the stereotype around burnout and the cliche. But that's what happened for me. It's like, okay, I don't like this anymore. So then I'm like, okay, what else can I do? I'm really good at getting things done behind the scenes. So how do I kind of use what I learned, from kind of going into this personality branding thing to actually come up with a strategy that worked for me to have that consistent visibility, and really drive results for the clients that I'm working with. So this is a really important topic. And I think it's really easy to get sucked into the hype. For example, you may be seeing me here. I'm doing a live stream and like, oh, wow, she's really all about personality branding. No, I'm not. I'm really about sharing and connecting with people. And I think there's a big distinction here because it's not about me. It's about how do I help you get the results that you want? So there's a very different aspect to content creation and to what you're trying to build. I recently had a client, actually two clients, that said, yeah, how many likes do you get? What are your impressions? Like, are you monitoring your numbers? And I do that for clients. I do report on numbers for clients. I promise I do. But I said, I don't really care. I don't really know how many people watch my live stream live, how many people watch it after. I'm not like, I don't care. For me, it's really about just showing up and delivering the value. And then when people think, oh, I need help with something that Mindi could help me with, they think of me, right? That's what it's about. And one of my marketing mentors, Jeff Robbins, jjeff.com, if you want to check out his blog, he has this saying, and it has stuck with me. 90% of marketing is just showing up. And he has a blog about that. If you just type in 90% of marketing and Jeff Robbins, you'll find it. And that's never been more true than on LinkedIn. It is literally just about showing up and showing up consistently and with value. And it's not about me. It is about bringing stuff that is going to be valuable to people that I'm connected to. So even when I didn't have the perfect thing to say, even when I wasn't feeling particularly inspired, right? Everything shifted when I realized I just need to continue showing up for my people. It's not about me. When I took the focus off of me and that personality that I felt I had to generate all the time and manufacture, and when I shifted it to, okay, I need to show up for my people every single week, that's what this is about. And I may have an off week here and there, but the goal and my intention is to show up for them. That's when things started to shift. So instead of focusing on being memorable or trying to go viral or paying attention to the likes and getting obsessed with, how many people are clicking, I started focusing on being reliable. It's like, okay, Mindi's that one person. I've seen her. I followed her work for years. When you hear that, you're like, yes, that's what it's about. You followed my work for years, which means I have been on your radar for years, whether you're actually paying attention, which you probably aren't. You probably see me, once or twice, every month or so. Okay. But I am someone that you can count on to show up, to share insights and engage regularly. I'm here. I'm still here. I'm still doing the thing. And you know what? That's when the referrals, that's when collaborations, that's when inbound leads, that's when they really start coming in. And no, it's not an overnight process. This happens over time. And LinkedIn, the beautiful thing about LinkedIn and how it's very different from other channels is that it rewards people who show up consistently. So if you are always here showing up, you have a frequency, you're contributing value, you are going to stay top of mind because LinkedIn will continue to put you at the top of the feed. in your connections LinkedIn news feeds. So it's not about fame, it's about the frequency and the consistency with that value attached to it. All right. So think about, how am I showing up this week to help those who are connected to me? If you use that one guiding question, that sums up everything we're talking about today, because that is what LinkedIn is about, and that's what LinkedIn wants. So this was this was such a big shift, and it's a big shift when I talk to people too, because it shifts our conversation from like, I have to get on the radar, I have to get discovered, I have to like get in front of them, to like, oh wait, what am I bringing to the table? Oh wait, how can I help? And so instead of being all that flash, we're not about the flash, we're about the foundational stuff. So from flashy to foundational, I like my alliteration there. So what does this actually look like in practice? Okay, so we're going to talk about some of the shifts that I made. So here's the old way. Let's talk about the old way. So taking the personality driven LinkedIn presence, you are focused on storytelling, it's personal anecdotes, it's like bringing people into your lives, it's oversharing, which I hated. I hated the oversharing where I felt I had to share all of these like really personal parts of my life just to get people's attention and to connect with people. It is about, trying to keep up with the inhumane posting frequency. I'm one person and I'm like expected to post every weekday and engage within like 2 hours. Like, and so it was that inconsistency that was really difficult, and that unsustainable factor. It also relied on like these big viral style, earth shattering, thought provoking posts to gain visibility. It's like I always had to be aggressively shifting your perspective. If you say potato, I have to make you say potato. It's like no matter what, I have to like argue or take a stance or challenge the norm in some way, which it works because you think differently than other people on some topics, but then it also doesn't work when you are trying to, fit the square peg in the round hole. Is that the saying? Okay. So I didn't really have a good system that I could also engage outside of my own content. It was always about me, 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 me. And that doesn't sit well with me because I'm like about helping people, and that jives more with my personality and the style and approach I want to take. So I said, okay, I don't like that way. But I got to figure something out that works better. So the new way, it's like, okay, you know what? How can I be consistent and how can I be strategic? Because those are two things that I can do and I can do well. And for those of you who are helping people, that are focused on sustainability, that you like to think about your approach, you're the type of people who watch my content anyways. You want to take a thoughtful approach to LinkedIn, which is what we talked about last week, is like, how do we be thoughtful connectors? How are we connecting with each other? So you are focused on educating. It's like, okay, people that I help, they don't know about these topics. And sometimes those can be earth-shattering insights. Sometimes people just need to be reminded of the basic stuff. You don't have to be aggressively shifting perspective. It's also about engaging my network regularly. So whether that's connecting, engaging in the DMs, responding to the DMs, it's also about, commenting and liking people's content. If I'm really busy, I will just like something in the feed, or I will look at one of my notifications and engage there. It's also about showing up multiple times per week. So I try to be on LinkedIn and at least kind of get through my DMs. I try for every weekday, but I miss a few days here and there because sometimes there are a lot of messages. So even if I'm not perfect and I'm not like sticking to a rigid schedule, I am making an effort to be on LinkedIn, kind of know what's going on and engage with my people. And relationship building is the key. It's part of my daily routine, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's in the emails, whether it's following up with people on my newsletter list. It's not just about content creation and getting eyeballs and impressions and trying to get you to like and share my post, or do the whole comment below and I'll send you a link, like where you're tricking people. I don't like to trick people. If you want to follow me, great. If you don't want to follow me, or my content isn't relevant to you, then go find somebody who you resonate with. So it's not this tricky type of like audience building that is just icky, right? It's also about having a repeatable system. Like, okay, here's a way that I do things that works for me, and I can stay visible and I'm not burning out. And so finding that sweet spot for me, that was coming back to, like, I took a long break from my live streams because I was burned out. I took more than a year off of doing these live streams because I was like, I don't have anything to say. I'm burnt out. I don't want to do it. And when I came back, I said, okay, I am going to do this because this is the best way for me to get across like thoughtful content. It's this longer form. It's just not like the short, here's what's new on LinkedIn news. It's like, okay, great. There are other people who are doing that, but the value that I can bring and what people actually want from me and what I hear from my clients is, hey, Mindi, I liked it when you dove into that topic and I really connected with your approach. I really wanted to do LinkedIn differently. And you were saying stuff, in a way that resonated with me and felt doable. For me, it's about making LinkedIn simple, and if you go to my website, that's how I've kind of changed my value proposition. It's like, how do we make LinkedIn more simple? Because when we make it simple, then we want to do it because then it's not like this big arduous task or I have to create this giant, framework and system and I got to hire a VA. I've got to use Sales Navigator and it just feels so complicated. Like, okay, let's boil it down and make it simple. So for me, that's what has really, really worked. And so when I shifted that way, I wasn't burned out. It's like, oh, wow, people are still referring people to me. I'm still getting referrals. I'm still engaging with people. I'm popping on people's radar. It was really interesting to see just that one simple shift and leaning into this one form of content creation, and it opens up dialogue and conversation for me. So you don't need to do live streams. I'm not telling you to do live streams, but you got to find your way on LinkedIn that feels sustainable, that feels like a good strategy for you that you can do over time, because that's what people will come to know you for and reach out to you for. And so think about your people and the medium that connects with them and what you like to do too. So, all right. So how do we build this presence that drives referrals? If you're tired of feeling like LinkedIn is an exhausting performance, like I did, here's how to shift your approach. Number one, you want to show up. And we've kind of talked about this already. Show up even when it's not perfect. That's hard for me because I want everything perfect. I'm like, I want the lights good. I want my script good. I want to be dialed in. I want it to sound different, but you don't have to stop. You don't have to be like waiting for the perfect post or the perfect insight to create content or to show up or to reach out to somebody in the DMs. This isn't just about posting content. The more you show up, the more trust you are going to build. And the people who succeed on LinkedIn long term, not short term, long term, are not the ones with the best posts. Some of them do great posts and some of them you're like, okay, they're not that great, but they are the people who will stick with it. They will keep trying, they will keep experimenting, and they build relationships, so it's not just about posting the content, it's about building those relationships. Number two, create a mix of content that keeps you visible. All right. So instead of just relying on your personality or like the days that you feel good to create content, you want to really mix in content that kind of touches different people and that works for you. So for example, like some people do really well with like short value pack posts. These could be like quick tips, industry insights, lessons learned. I sometimes share these, but it usually has to be something that I think is worthwhile and worth sharing. So it depends on your industry, depends on your niche. For some of you, this is going to be your bread and butter. It's like these short value pack posts. People see your content like, I'm going to get something juicy. I'm going to get something I can apply today. Okay, lean into that. For some of you, comment engagement is going to be really important. So you definitely want to be doing some of that. Some of you are going to do more than others. And you want to contribute to relevant conversations. So stuff that's happening in your industry, in your field, your areas of expertise. Spend time commenting. Always respond to people's comments on your own content. And I let this slide a lot if I'm busy. I don't do as well as I should on the comment engagement. It's really, really important. And also reposting older content. I have some content that is really, really helpful and really juicy from way back when. And I need to get better at kind of like cycling that back in or reworking it. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll rework it into a new live stream. Like, oh, I really like that post, but things have shifted on LinkedIn. So let me just refresh it, reframe it. And if it was useful then, it's probably still useful now. So those are some ways to kind of spruce up your content and really think about what's going to work well for you and your audience, without burning out, right? So if you have stuff that's, in the archive, pull it out, dust it off. It may be better than you think. All right. Number three, focus on engaging more than you post. We kind of talked about that with the commenting, but this is one of the biggest unlocks for me is really thinking about my DMs. So my direct messages and making sure that I'm following up on those. And that is not engagement that you can see, but it is engagement that happens behind the scenes and it is critically important. It's also spending as much time engaging with others. So DMs, talking, conversations, stuff that is visible, not visible, the same amount of time as I do creating content, so it's like I really want to have a nice balance. So it's not just me shouting like from, what is it, a microphone, megaphone. It is also me like actually talking with you. It's finding out what you want to learn about. It is having those conversations. Thoughtful comments, genuine conversations. Those are critically important to referrals in creating a profile and a strategy that will work for you and actually drive those referrals, because the conversations are what lead to referrals. It's not the likes, it's not the reposts. It is people talking to other people about your work. And then proactive networking also is really important. So reaching out and getting connected with people. If you are going to an online event, in-person event, any type of event, you're a part of a group, community, anything like that, you should be connecting on LinkedIn with all those people. That's the first place that you should go to get connected, especially if you want kind of like an easy inroad to get connected to people on LinkedIn. For those of you who are a little bit more advanced, a little more seasoned, and you can take rejection a little more, you might be able to do some, sales navigator, list creation, and reaching out to cold prospects, but that is a little bit more of an advanced technique to do it well. All right. So I would start, if you are like, I need this to be sustainable and feel good, I would start with people who you're in their circle in some way, shape, or form, and all you need to do is get connected on LinkedIn. That's a little bit of an easier entry point. And you can see some of my older content, stuff that I've talked about in the last few months about getting connected and what to say in connections. Just Google Mindi and my name, Mindi Rosser, Mindi Ramsey, and LinkedIn connections. You'll see a lot of content pop up. There'll be something for you. All right. And then number 4, play the long game. If you want referrals on LinkedIn, if you want a sustainable approach, personality branding, like we talked about already, it is focusing on like that quick impact. Like you're trying to get people razzle dazzled. And okay, that again, it may get people's attention initially, but it's not going to keep their attention. So a consistent visibility strategy, it focuses on that long-term trust. So you may see something clever once and you're like, wow, I got followers. But if they do not trust you, if you do not continue showing up with trustworthy content, they're going to unfollow you, or they're just not going to trust what you say. They're not going to refer you. Referrals are built on trust. So the opportunities don't come from that one viral post that you did. They come from showing up week after week and proving that you are worth paying attention to. So it is key, if you want a sustainable approach on LinkedIn, that you bring the value and you bring it consistently. And most people cannot do that. They can bring it once, they can do it for a short period of time, but to do it month after month, year after year, and to keep serving your clients and growing, and showing that you are growing and you are learning and you're continuing to invest in that and in your clients, that's really what's going to help you on LinkedIn. So keep that in mind. All right. So rethink your LinkedIn strategy for 2025. Instead of going for those quick wins, think about, okay. How am I helping my connections? How am I showing up this week to help my connections? Remember, that's our guiding question. So I challenge you, rethink how you're showing up on LinkedIn. If you're already doing this, great, pat yourself on the back. Be like, oh, I'm doing it and I'm doing it well. Just keep doing what you're doing. And if you're relying still on that personality branding stuff or the mega entrepreneurs and the oversharing, you don't have to. There are better ways. There are more authentic and good feeling ways that don't feel like you're overdoing it. So you really want to focus on building a presence that drives real business or career opportunities for you. LinkedIn is not about being the loudest person in the room. It's about being the most consistent, credible, and engaging person in your space. Or persons, like there's room for lots of us here. Okay. So tell me, what's one shift that you are going to make in your LinkedIn strategy for this year, for this quarter? Or next quarter? Drop it in the comments. I would love to hear, because when we're sharing ideas, when we're talking about these things, it opens up dialogue. We can learn from each other. We can also hear what's working. Like maybe you're already doing all of these things. You're like, Mindi, yeah, rock on. This is exactly what I'm doing and it's working for me. Share that in the comments because this really helps us realize that we are not the only people doing it this way. And LinkedIn doesn't have to be icky and LinkedIn doesn't have to be complicated. It can be a really great space for those of us trying to help others with our area of expertise in our niche, in our knowledge, in our wisdom. All right, so let's connect. If you are looking for a way to refine your LinkedIn presence, I'm currently like revamping my LinkedIn resources right now. And yes, it's a long process, but I would love to send them your way when they're ready. If you just want to hop on my list, you can just go to mindyramsey.com I send out a weekly newsletter. It reminds you that I do this show, so it links to this live stream every week, plus any goodies or interesting things along the way. I usually put in a little LinkedIn nugget at the end of those, so you may enjoy that. And if you want to DM me, you can always do that as well. I will see you all next week for Mondays with Mindi. Until then, keep showing up, keep building, and let's make LinkedIn work for us and not drain us. All right, I will see you all next week. Bye for now.